Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host, and I'm your moderator. I'm also the creator and the publisher of TheChocolateLife.com. Today is Friday, August 16th, and this is the day we're doing the monthly news, all the chocolate news that's fit to eat, as well as AMA, Ask Me Anything. So you can go into the live chat replay on YouTube or the comments on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can, just let me know where in the world you're connecting from. I'll get that shout out up on screen. Always like to know where people are tuning in from. And then if you do have a question or comment about any of the news articles that I am talking about, or you just have a general question and ask me anything about cocoa and chocolate, I will get that question up and asked if I possibly can. If I can't answer the question during the course of the stream, what I will do is I will make sure it gets answered in the comments on the post. And with that, what I want to do is share my screen for just a second and say, here's the homepage of TheChocolateLife.com right now. There's been an update. It says here right now that the archive site is currently unreachable. There was a problem in the data center. That problem has been resolved, and I just took a look, and yep, the site is back up. So just wanted to let everybody know that there were some technical difficulties, and they have been resolved. I also want to say that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is sponsored by members of The Chocolate Life. If you're not a member of The Chocolate Life, please go there, become a member. There's always a free tier. If you are able to become a premium member, then that support is obviously appreciated by everybody who can do it. But of course, that's I understand there are a lot of demands on people's time and people's pocketbooks in this time. So just going and becoming a free member of The Chocolate Life. Also, while you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, give it a like and subscribe to the Pod Save Chocolate channel. That would also be appreciated. And with all of the business out of the way, at least for this part of the episode, I want to go and point out that for this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode, what I do is I create a post on The Chocolate Life. Now, if you're listening to this rather than watching it, then one of the things you can do is you can go to your computer and you can follow along with all of the links and all of the resources and everything that gets mentioned. You don't have to actually take a look and remember the URLs or any of that kind of stuff. They are archived here on the page. And if there's a question or a resource that is asked and there's additional information that needs to get researched and put up, I will put the links to all those resources on this page as well. For me, some big news is that this past Tuesday's episode of Pod Save Chocolate focused on travel programs that I'm going to be involved in. So there's a link to the travel programs episode of Pod Save Chocolate. You can go there and learn more about those episodes. So you can do that. We've got a Discover Chocolate in Paris and Discover Chocolate in Ecuador at the end of October and into the mid-November. So you can go there and figure it out. If you're interested in either of those travel programs, you can send me an email, edmember.support@thechocolatelife.com. And there are links, so you don't have to remember that in the post. So that's number one. The second one is that there are now 4, I believe, of the first 4 episodes of Pod Save Chocolate that are available as audio podcasts. There's a link to the Pinecast dashboard, which is in today's post, and it shows the apps that you can use, and there's a link to where you can get the RSS feed. So if you're following it as an RSS feed, you can do that as well. That link is in today's post. And there's also at the top of the page where it says Pod Save Chocolate. If you click on the arrow to the right of Pod Save Chocolate on the top nav, there's a link to the audio podcast dashboard. So I'm really, really excited about starting the uploads of them. I've got 4. I've got another 60 of them to go to process and get ready to go. But I'm excited to get it started. And then also this coming Sunday, so the day after tomorrow, on the 18th of August, at 10 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time, so Los Angeles time, even though I'm in Arizona, we don't observe daylight savings. So I'm still in Mountain Standard Time, is the monthly member AMA. So if you're a member of The Chocolate Life, there's 90 minutes once a month on a Sunday where you can get together. We do a Google Meet, and you can ask me any question that you'd like. You have to go to the August member newsletter. There's a link to the August member newsletter in the top rail, and you have to be a member, and you have to be logged in, right, as a member in order to be able to see the URL for the monthly member call. So it's there. If you're not a member right now, you can go sign up for membership. It's free. What I have done is at the bottom of the post for today, there is a link to become a premium member. And I noticed that there is a join, right? There's a join above this. If you're not logged in, you'll see a really, really quick dialogue where you can put your email address in and become a member really, really easily. And then special 2 months off 2 premium memberships. So if you want to do that this month, that would be appreciated. So that's available. Anyway, with that, let's get to the news. And we're going to start off with the news by taking a look at the markets. Now, this is a really tiny chart. I don't expect anybody to be able to take a look at it, but the links will be in the post right later today. So you can go and you can follow on these links. What we see is that, a lot of volatility. The current price is at 8,400. We're going to go up to 8,900. That's what this futures is for September. It's going to do a quick dive into 7,000 and down into 5,000. So we are looking at downward price pressure. So there are indications, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a site called Cocoa Radar, which you can subscribe to. I believe it might be free, but if you go to the Cocoa Radar and you look at the most important stories post, what you can do is you can go take a look at this Market Watch session. And what they'll do is they'll give you some interesting reasons why the price pressure appears to be going down, why prices are going down, why the market appears to be bearish on prices. And the reason why, the market appears to be bearish on prices is that people are bullish on the future harvest. However, we need to, even though the Cocoa Board of Ghana is predicting a return to normal harvests now that El Nino is over, we have yet to actually see that we're going to be returning to normal harvesting. And so without that's why they're called futures, right? That people are betting a particular way. And it's part of a larger hedging strategy, and people are putting in orders and trying to lock in prices right now for what's going on. But if you're a small chocolate maker and you don't have the ability to go and commit to large quantity purchases far in advance, keeping track of what the futures prices are and taking a look at why people in the market are thinking that here are the reasons they're giving for the prices either being bearish or bullish. So they're bullish on the harvest. They're hoping that weather will return to normal. They're hoping that harvest will return to normal. We don't know that that's the case. We will figure it out. But in the meantime, we need to take a close look at it. So we do have, I'll put the links to the futures intraday. This is at barchart.com. There's another really wonderful link. If you go across to the right, you can take a look at the price history of futures. And the default is to give you 3 months. If you don't have a subscription, you can get the 3 months. And you can take a look at the way prices have moved. So in June, so almost exactly 2 months ago, we were in the mid 10,000s. We've been floating down fairly slowly, but there's a fair amount of volatility. 7,700 one day, 8,200 the next day, staying in that range for 3 or 4 days, going back to 7,800, up to 8,000. So there's still a lot of volatility in the price of the market. So it's really interesting to take a look, not just at the current price, but also to take a look at the futures intraday, and then there's another really wonderful link, and I will put this link in there as well, which is this historical pricing data. And so what you can do is so I've organized this so we're looking at the most recent first, but this gives you really good access to historical pricing. So we have the 2026 futures, and we can go all the way back to actually 1981 futures prices. So if you want to go and take a look, this is a real deep dive into the history of prices, and it's worthwhile taking a look at that. I'll put the link to this particular view. And then finally, there's another view which is called the moving average. And what it'll do is it'll give you an idea about what's been happening over the last 20 days, the last 100 days. So you can get an idea about where the volatility is and why that's important. It's really, really hard to see some of these numbers if you're just looking at the numbers, right? But there's, I'll put the link to Trading Economics, which is a site that I'm showing right now. If you're just listening to this, is that there is a chart here which lets you sort of visualize the volatility, where things were at the start of 2020 to where they are now, and you can get a really, really good visual sense. And that's what I want to recommend, that if you're in the world of cocoa and chocolate and your business depends upon purchasing chocolate or purchasing cocoa beans, that having a good understanding of what the market is doing and why pundits think the market is going to be moving the way it's going to be moving in the future. These are some really, really good resources. Also on this Trading Economics website are other commodities. And so you can go take a look at what other commodities are doing relative to cocoa. There are no direct correlations that I've been able to find. There's no hidden detail that if the price of oil is going one way, the price of cocoa is going another. We don't know what the contribution to changes in the price of oil might have to do with the changes of delivered prices in cocoa. Lots of really interesting issues there. There are people who are looking at those kinds of relationships, and very, very difficult to tease out. And I don't know that there are any. But also understanding where the price of natural gas, where the price of a barrel of crude oil is, where the prices of other agricultural commodities like soybeans and wheat, just having a general sense of where things are moving is really, really important. It also helps understand, what's happening in terms of retail prices at grocery stores, which is also an important thing to do. This, if you're making chocolate, buying chocolate, selling chocolate, understanding how other commodities are going to have an impact on retail prices is interesting. So we can see the price up or down, and then you can click through on any of these things and get historical pricing data, which I think is really, really valuable as well. So it's worthwhile spending half an hour a month, a couple of minutes on a regular basis. Maybe, as you get ready to start the week or as you end the week, after the Friday close, understand how things have changed over the course of the week, might be a bit of discipline that you might find helpful. It certainly is helpful to me as people come to me and ask me questions about what's going on. Really, really important. Right? And again, I'll put the links to all of these resources in the post for today's episode, so you can go and review them after the fact. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. And that includes the link to this Cocoa Radar website as well. It's run by a guy named Anthony Myers. Tony was at Confectionery News magazine, and he left Confectionery News, and this is one of the projects that he's working on. Right. So with that, let's jump on to some other news. One of the interesting bits of news in this world, sorry, let me jump to the top of the page, is a question that I saw. So I will go through websites like Ground News and Google Alerts and just general news queries to find answers to questions like that. And I suppose this is an interesting question. Let me know if whether we were watching today, whether you think it might be interesting to do an autocomplete. So I go to Google and type in some questions like, what is chocolate, milk chocolate, just generic questions about chocolate and cocoa, and do an autocomplete and use the autocomplete as a way to think about questions that we might answer. Let me know. Go into the comments. Let me know if you think that's an interesting idea, if an autocomplete might be a lot of fun. So the question here, it's from a website called LAist, is, can an AI make better chocolate chip cookie recipes than humans? And the conceit is that one of the chefs from America's Test Kitchen, they went through and they went to ChatGPT and another website called DishGen, they're two AI programs, and said, could either of these programs recommend a chocolate chip recipe that is going to be exceptional? And the answer to the question that Dan Souza, who's at American Test Kitchen, said basically is that when ChatGPT or any one of these AI engines goes and looks up at the internet and creates a summary, they're basically looking at copies of the Nestle Toll cookie recipe. And so almost everything you're going to find is based upon a standard recipe that you're going to be able to find, and you'll find them on the back of you'll find them on the back of a bag of chocolate chips if you buy Toll House chocolate chips. So the answer to the question is, can an AI generate a better recipe? The answer is probably not at this state, because the AIs are looking at a standard set of recipes and they're averaging the input from a bunch of recipes, and so they're not gonna be able to do a good job. That's the sense that I get. Right? But they say the craziest thing I would do with the search, I did it multiple times on different days and got different recipes. So the same prompt, but different recipe, which found totally infuriating, which I completely understand, right? And that is one of the challenges associated with using an engine like ChatGPT, is you can ask the same question, use the identical prompt on different days and come up with different results. And the question is, if you are presented with different answers, how do you know which answer is in fact the best one or even a correct one? So we talk about about the importance of being able to go back to primary sources and understand what the sources are for particular answers. And if you rely only on the response that an engine like ChatGPT is going to give, you actually don't know what the source is it's using to get its information. So you need to be very, very careful, especially with a sort of niche knowledge area like cocoa and chocolate. I mean, as I've asked AI engines a lot of questions about cocoa and chocolate, ChatGPT included, and I find that it's generally, they might get the gist of an answer, but they miss some important nuance. And like many things in chocolate, the answer depends. And so the nuance is important. So I would be very, very careful. So that's what I want to say. Can AI make a better chocolate chip cookie? The answer is probably not, because of the data that it has been trained on and the data that it's looking at. But what I want to do is I want to point out, now I'm not going to be able to play the audio for this. But what you're doing is, many, many years ago, I was working with the organizers of the World Pastry Team Championship and the National Pastry Team Championship and the World Pastry Forum. And we did a class, and that class included two chefs. Actually, it was Shirley Corrier, who was leading the class. And we're talking a lot about ways to improve chocolate chip cookie dough recipes. And one of the things that Chef Corrier, Shirley Corrier, is talking about she's talking about dough hydration. And she's saying that one of the best ways to improve chocolate chip cookies is to make the dough and let it rest in the refrigerator for 24 to 48 hours to let the dough fully hydrate. And what you'll notice is, if you do this hydration, is that the color of the dough will change. And so if you watch the episode, you'll be able to see up on the screen, I'm scrubbing through the YouTube video. This is a photograph that was taken by Chef Talbot and Alex Talbot. And what he's got is, on the left is a fresh chocolate chip cookie dough, on the right is a hydrated chocolate chip cookie dough. And what you just see is a massive color change between the two, which is, I think, really, really quite remarkable that you've got this color change. Right? What Chef Corrier is saying is that by simply allowing the dough to rest for 24 to 48 hours, what you'll do is you'll see this massive change, number one, in the color of the dough, but this color shift signals hydration. And that if you bake the cookie off when it is much more fully hydrated, you will in fact get a tastier chocolate chip cookie. What Chef Alex Talbot recommends here is you can get this same color change if what you do is you have a vacuum sealer, especially a chamber vacuum sealer. You could put a bit of chocolate chip cookie dough into a vacuum seal bag, pull a vacuum on it, and what might take 24 to 48 hours in the refrigerator will happen literally before your eyes. You can watch the hydration happen as you pull the vacuum on the cookie dough, right? And I don't believe he goes into the physics of why this happens, but it is really, really quite remarkable. And I can tell you my memory of the difference because they baked off fresh dough and they baked off the hydrated dough as part of the class. It is really, really, really remarkable. And so I'm going to put the link to this video. I actually shot and produced this video, edited and uploaded it for the organizers of the World Pastry Forum. I put together a channel many, many years ago called Dessert Tube TV. I haven't uploaded anything to it in at least 10 years. So I just wanted to, let you know that you can go there and you'll be able to watch through it. And if you are at all interested in upping your chocolate chip cookie game, don't go to an AI to find the ultimate chocolate chip cookie recipe. Go and watch this Dessert Tube video, Dessert Tube TV video, and understand what's happening. It's only about 2.5 minutes long, it looks like. And you'll get some really, really good advice about upping your chocolate chip cookie dough, your chocolate chip cookie game. And no matter what the recipe is that you're using, this technique will improve the quality of your chocolate chip cookies when they're baked off. Now, I just noticed this morning that there was a comment on this video that had never been responded to. And so I took the case here, and it says, does this work with frozen dough? And the answer to that is, I don't know if it works with frozen dough, but one of the things to do would be to take a photograph of the dough when it's fresh. And if you immediately freeze it, then when you take it out, I assume you want to bake it off from frozen, take it out and take a look to see if the color change has happened. And my guess is that if it happens, it will happen only very slowly. So what I would recommend is making the dough fresh, letting it hydrate. So putting it in the refrigerator for 24 to 48 hours for the hydration to happen, and then freeze it. Right, and that will be the way to make this happen. That's my sense for how to go about doing it. But yeah, you could make a lot of dough in advance, let it hydrate, freeze it, and then you could slice it into pucks and bake it off, or however you're going to do it after the fact. So it does work both ways. So just a really, really interesting blast from the past that came to me because I saw this article about AI versus human chef developed recipes. So that I don't know that ChatGPT knows anything about this hydration technique, and quite frankly, I don't want to spend the time to go looking for it. But that's one of the reasons why I like doing this search of the news, is that it will oftentimes, remind me of something that I have done in the past. Another thing, the next topic that I want to talk about is that the Northwest Chocolate Festival, the Chocolate Alliance, has announced its award winners for 2024. And I will put the link to the website, so you can go, if you don't already know who the winners are, you can go and find out who the winners are. I think that I have an issue with the way the data here are published. The winners are published. The first one of which is that there are no links. So none of the links to the winning companies is actually a link, right? So you can't just go click, for example, on this green bean to bar chocolate who's a winner in the gold, and be able to go to the website. And you can't go to the winning product and go to the product page on the website. And Green Bean to Bar, I mean, they are in Tokyo, so maybe that's a reason why. But certainly a Hawaiian company or an American company, there's no reason why these links aren't active. Not entirely sure why they're not doing it. The other thing which they don't do, which is a real problem for me and people who are really, really interested in these kinds of topics, is that they don't let you know the producing country. So where the company that won the award, where they're located. So for example, this Green Bean to Bar, they'll tell you that they're using Tanzania beans. Or the Good Now Farms, they'll tell you that they're using the Colombia Boyacá beans, right? Argent Cove is using Apoyo. If you didn't know that Argent Cove was in Nicaragua, you would know that where Apoyo is, all right? And then Standout, they're in the United States, or Canada, but they're probably in the United States. They're using a Belize My Mountain. So, I mean, I wish that the organizers of this particular awards would spend more attention, care and attention in the way they publish the results, letting us know not only who the maker is, but providing links to the maker, letting us know where the maker is located in the world. Otherwise, you have to have an enormous amount of subject matter knowledge in order to be able to go, oh, number one, you need to know where they are already, or number two, you need to know where the beans might be located in order to be able to figure it out, because it's just a bit of information. It turns out it's really helpful in being able to go from one award to another award. So if you want to go and compare the winners in the Chocolate Alliance with the Academy of Chocolate or the International Chocolate Awards, the differences in data formats and what they do and don't publish makes it really, really difficult to help understand which companies and which producing countries are being recognized, and which manufacturing countries, which consuming countries are being recognized in the awards. But you can go to the Chocolate Alliance webpage. Again, I'll put the link up on in the post for today, and you can find out who the winners are. And it just looks overall that Green Bean to Bar from Japan, Good Now Farms, both extreme. I visited Good Now Farms in Massachusetts. I've been to the workshop of Green Bean to Bar in Tokyo. I mean, amazing companies doing fabulous work. I'm not familiar with Premarsh Chocolate Lab, Cacao Latte Lab. Is that that's not a typo. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that these awards are available, and there's actually going to be an awards presentation in Seattle during the Northwest Chocolate Festival this year. So hopefully you'll be able to meet some of those people. On a related note, you may know that the Chocolate Life has been, and PodSafe Chocolate, have been big supporter of the AVP Awards program. So this is a French organization that recognizes agricultural products which are manufactured in the producing country. So they have a chocolates produced at origin from beans from that country. And during the travel program, Discover Chocolate in Paris, which is going to happen during the Salon du Chocolat, we're going to have an opportunity to go to the awards program there. We've already announced the winners here on PodSafe Chocolate, but we're going to have an opportunity to go to a reception for the winners. If you're on my tour, you're going to be able to get access to an invite-only reception for the winners of the AVPA. So if you're interested in that, you can send mail to member.support at thechocolatelife.com and ask me more about that if you'd like to be a part of that. But if you are interested, you can find out who the winners are for this year's Chocolate Alliance Awards. So the ceremony is going to be held at the Northwest Chocolate Festival in Bellingham. Is it Bellingham? It's not actually it's not on the waterfront, which is where it's been for the last for most of the last decade. But it is on October 4th. You can go there. I also want to talk about this program, which is for the British Society of Flavorists. The British Society of Flavorists last year, I did a presentation on communicating about the flavors of cocoa and chocolate, or coffee and chocolate, for their annual symposium. And this year, the annual symposium is focusing 100% on chocolate. It's going to be in Brussels on the 25th of October. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be presenting with colleague Zoe Papalexandratou. But it's going to be a really, really interesting panel. One of the invited speakers is a gentleman by the name of Peter Schieberle. I've been, his work on the chemicals that compose the flavors of chocolate. If you try to deconstruct the flavor of chocolate using analytical chemistry, there's no single flavor which is chocolate. That what we think of as chocolate is a combination of a lot of different flavors, right? And they include some very, very counterintuitive things like human sweat and fermented cabbage and a whole bunch of other things. It's really, really quite remarkable when you go and take a look at it. But I am really, really excited to have an opportunity to meet Mr. Schieberle. He's at University in Munich. I've been, following his work for a long time. Hopefully what will happen is that they'll be recorded, and this will be, the videos of this will be made available after the fact to do that. But at the moment, you have to go to Brussels for the 25th of October. I'm planning to go, and then the salon is the following week. And so I plan to go from Brussels to Paris for that. But it's a really, really good panel. And if you're there, people may remember that several weeks ago, I did a episode of Pod Safe Chocolate with David Nilsson, who runs the Bean to Barstool podcast, and has got a book. Hold on a second. He's got a book here, which is called Pairing Beer and Chocolate, which I ordered a copy. And he's going to be doing a chocolate and beer pairing to end the day's symposium. So I'm really looking forward. I have no idea what beers he's choosing, except they might be Belgian beers. And I have no idea which chocolates he's going to be using. So I'm really, really excited to be there and be able to do it. Although I think David is going to be delivering it remotely. But if you are at all involved in the world of flavor and you're interested in it, you professionally, and you have an opportunity through your company to be able to be in Brussels at the end of October for this symposium, I will leave the link to this page so you can sign up and take part of it. And if you're going to be in Brussels, let me know, and we'll arrange. There's a dinner the night before. Maybe what I will do is on the Saturday, that makes sense. Maybe we'll do a walking tour of downtown Brussels. All right, around the Place Blanc and the Grand Sablon. They are within walking distance. I think I may try to organize something like that for the Saturday. Hopefully will be a good weather. In any event, just wanted to let you know about that. I'm really, really, really excited about going to that symposium. The story about heavy metals contamination in chocolate and cocoa products appears to be one that is evergreen, right? Because it popped up again in the news in the last week. And this was sent to me by a colleague, this link. And what it says is, here's a company called, this is Newsread Deck. I mean, I have no idea who they are. And they're actually, I believe, this is publishing from an organization called Study Finds, and I don't know the relationship between the two. It's not obvious what the relationship is between the two. But the headline is a bait and switch headline, because what it says, organic chocolate may actually be worse for you. Worse for you than what? Right? It's number one. So basically, it's conventional chocolate. The idea is organic chocolate. And what they're doing is they're talking about a new study, right, from George Washington University, right, that says that, okay, guys, there is, we did some analysis of chocolate, and what we found is that a lot of the chocolate had levels of lead and cadmium that are above Proposition 65 levels in California, which is roughly one. So the levels of the allowable levels, what are called the MADL in California, are limited to about 1/1000th of what is generally recognized federally and in the EU. So the California levels are just really, really, really low. And we've covered this on The Chocolate Life extensively. So as a matter of fact, if what you wanted to do is you could go to TheChocolateLife.com, click on the search button at the top, and then just type in cadmium. And what you'll do is there's a bunch of articles that I've contributed to, as well as Keith Ayub, who is a regular contributor, who is a professor emeritus in pediatric nutrition at the Einstein College of Medicine, and has a history in this. Is a big chocolate fan, big cocoa fan, and so did his own blood work to figure out, if he was at risk. But this is a story which appears to not be going away. And I'd say this is a bait and switch article because it focuses on organic chocolate, and people are going, ooh, organic chocolate may be worse. I've heard all these awful things about chocolate being heavy, being high in heavy metals, right? And so what I want to do is I want to point out, again, I did a recent Pod Safe Chocolate episode on the importance of fact checking. And so here's what I want you to take a look at from this episode, diving deeper behind the headlines. Number one is that They talk about a study. So I'm highlighting this for people who maybe watch. So let me see if I can change this and make it a little bigger. It's not going to be huge. But it says new study. This new study, there's no link to this study. So the fact is if there were, I would want to see a link to the actual study, not actually, they're just talking about a link to the study, right? And so they analyzed 72 popular products. There's no list of what the products were, right? Including chocolate bars found in grocery store shelves, right? So we get it. But now we take a look and we go, okay, there is a link here to large fish like tuna. And what we do is we find that it's an internal link. This is a study finds link on chocolate. This link to tuna is to a study finds link. This link on brown rice is to a study finds link. And so it's all just sort of internal linking to itself. There's no actual talk about, can I go to primary sources, right? So they do highlight a person, a woman a man or a woman, hard to tell by the spelling, Lee Frame, who's the director of integrative medicine and associate professor of clinical research at the GW School of Medicine and Health. While it's not practical to avoid heavy metals in your food entirely, which is a topic that we've discussed in the past, you must be cautious of what you are eating and how much. I don't disagree. Again, there's another link here, Prop 65 limit for lead. Rather than actually going through what the Prop 65 limit is, going to the California regulation for it and understanding it's an internal study, right? So what's the good news? Arsenic levels are very, very low, right? Because we need to think about what is the arsenic level, for example, in rice. It's something to think about. So what I would have to be very, very point out to everyone here, right, is that that number one is that if you're looking through an article like this, what you need to be very, very careful to see is if there are any links to primary sources. Every single one of the links on this page that I can see, right, goes back to another article on this website, which is a challenge, right? So they summarize the paper, but there is no link to the paper. They do an interesting job of saying, what are the limitations? What are some key takeaways? They do talk about a methodology. So the George Washington researchers analyzed 72 consumer cocoa products. We don't know what they are. Big red flag, including dark chocolate. Yay. Every other year over an 8-year period, they tested for contamination with lead, cadmium, arsenic using laboratory techniques. They called sophisticated laboratory techniques. I think that's a little bit redundant. The team then compared the levels found to a variety of safety standards, including Prop 65 and the FDA guidelines. But they don't actually tell you what the FDA guidelines are. They only tell you what the Prop 65 guidelines are. They say 43% of the products exceeded the maximum allowable dose level for lead according to Prop 65. They don't say what it is compared with the FDA results. So there's a lot to understand about how to go and decode this particular representation. Number one is the headline is bait and switch somehow, but nowhere in here do they indicate of the 72 products, which of them organic, which one of them are conventional, none of that. So, right, you need to be very, very careful. Experts advise chocolate lovers not to panic. Again, they're pointing to another story on the website, but this is burying the lead, right? Experts advise chocolate lovers not to panic, but they're talking about brace yourselves, right? Might be harboring an unsavory secret. I mean, they're literally burying the lead by putting it where they are. I don't know how many people, other than people like me and those of you who might be watching this today or listening to it, will pay attention to it. Now, what's also really, really interesting about this for me is I took a look at the story, look for the story in Ground News. What we do, and it's there, it's interesting to know that it is on Ground News. They do a good headline summary of it. And what we do is we find that it's been reported, Ground News says, over 35 times in the last 2 weeks. It would be interesting to know, I haven't actually taken that close a lose. It is how how individual websites are reporting this based upon their political bias. So for example, Epic Times, which is a way right-leaning website, be interested to know how they report it compared to some which is a more mainstream, more mainstream outlet. And so this is a reason why a tool like Ground News is, I find, going to be really, really helpful in taking a look at when you got a new story and you're not entirely sure what's going on. This might be a first line of finding additional research, which is, how many times is this story being reported? How many times is the story being reported? In what outlets is the story being reported? Are the mainstream outlets, they appear to have a left-wing, right-wing, centrist bias, and things like that. So they can help you understand how to parse the story, right? Really, really important. And, I'm not in any way sponsoring or any way have an affiliate relationship with Ground News. You don't get a discount, and I don't get a spiff if you use it. It's just a product. This is just something that I use on a regular basis in order to be able to figure things out. So I also wanted to talk about this in relationship to something else, right? So this particular story in relationship with another story. And before they do that, I want to say we're Pod Save Chocolate, which is a twice weekly show which covers topics in cocoa and chocolate. It is sponsored by members of TheChocolateLife.com. If you're not a member of The Chocolate Life, please go over there. There's always a free tier. If you go to the post for today's episode, scroll down to the bottom, there are 2 links which will give you 2 free months, the first 2 months free, in an annual premium subscription to support what it is that I'm doing here. You do have to be a free member to begin with, and then you need to be logged in when you click on the link in order to be able to take advantage of it. So really appreciate that. And you're here on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and support what it is that we're doing here. So what I want to talk about here is that we have a story here that talks about a potential health problem, right? So if you have a particular health condition that makes you more prone to contamination from heavy metals, then you need to be much more careful than the average person needs to be when it comes to monitoring your consumption. And again, I'm not a doctor, but if you are worried about it, the number one way to go figure out if you are at risk is to go and get yourself properly tested, right, for heavy metals exposure, lead and cadmium specifically, right? Don't rely on weird sites from the internet, right, to help diagnose conditions, right? And it turns out, important to know, is that chocolate on the list of potential environmental exposure agents to lead and cadmium is on the low end. It's not in the top 5, and it's at the bottom end of the top 10. There are other things you should consider as a part of this, right? Not just to focus on your chocolate intake. Really, really important to know that. Now, this is not to say that manufacturers need to do a better job of testing, right? That's not to say that. There should be some there. But it's also a question of, are the California levels the benchmark for where we should all be thinking about? They are, in fact, 1/1000th of what the federal levels are. And my understanding of the way that the levels are measured is they have to do with inhalation rather than ingestion. And by consuming something is very, very different from what happens if you inhale it. So consuming something by the mouth and eating it is very different if you inhale it into your lungs. So we do need to be aware of that. But what I want to do is I want to talk about this other story that is much more front of mind because it is much more critical. And the first one of which is there's a company which is the name of the company, I forget the name of the company here. It's listed on the page. I'll put the link in it. But there's a line of chocolate microdosed chocolates with CBD. And what has happened is that these products have been associated with 130 illnesses and 2 deaths associated with these products, which are a company called Diamond Shrooms. So this, right? So I have a food safety law firm. That's where I found this originally. It showed up in Google Alerts. So we got there. This is something that has happened. We're monitoring it. And it turns out that, over the course of the last month or so, we've seen issues associated with it. But there have been 130 illnesses, many of them people going to hospital, right? And 2 deaths associated with the consumption of Diamond Shrooms brand chocolate bars, cones, and gummies, right? So if you are microdosing and you are consuming these Diamond Shrooms brand, you need to be very, very careful if you can find them. Apparently, I believe there's been a recall here. So while we can talk all it is that we want to talk about contamination of chocolate from cadmium and lead, it turns out that there was a mycotoxin involved in the extract that they were using to create these Diamond Shrooms product. And it was the mycotoxin which turned out to be toxic. So really, really, really want to be very, very careful about that. So just to be safe, I did go to Ground News. Let me get rid of these things. I did go to Ground News. And I'm going to put a link to this in today's post. This is a little while ago. So this story was last updated a month ago as opposed to last updated in the last couple of days. But they do talk about what the products are. The company's called Profit Premium Blends, right? And you'll be able to read various stories on this. So we need to be very careful when we start demonizing chocolate, right? Is the heavy metal contamination, is the lead and cadmium might, and only might, right, have a long-term effect, right? But when it comes to short-term effects, much more acute toxicity, we do need to be careful. And this is a case not of the chocolate being the agent which is potentially harmful to you. It is additions to the chocolate that are going to be harmful to you. And again, much more acutely. In this particular article on Ground News, again, which hasn't been updated recently, linked to 1 death and 50 illnesses, whereas we have a much more updated, this is August 15th, so yesterday, which suggests that over 130 illnesses with 2 confirmed deaths associated with consumption of this product. So please be careful, people. Please be careful, people. Know what you're buying, know whom you're buying it from, and if you do get symptoms from the consumption of something, contact poison control and get to your doctor, get to a hospital as soon as possible. Be really, really careful about this stuff. These might be supplements, and so they are not controlled as closely from a marketing and manufacturing, or not from a marketing, but well, yeah, from a manufacturing perspective, the same kinds of controls as if they were actually something which wasn't marketed as a supplement. So just be really, really careful, really, really careful, people. I got another thing, just a couple of more things to round out. And this has to do basically with following on with the Chocolate Alliance winners for 2024, which is, I started off Chocophile.com back in 2001, and I was doing ratings and reviewings of chocolate. And I quickly moved out of that space, number one, because I couldn't find a way for it to generate enough income to be able to support a family. And I moved into consulting and to do other things as a journalist over that time. But there have been many, many attempts over the course of the last 20 years to put together online databases of chocolate reviews and ratings and other things. And there is a beer website where people can contribute their own ratings of different brews they find at different parts of the world. And, there is no real regular publication in the world of chocolate like there are for beer. There are no real publication. There are no real websites or communities for there. But I do want to go and point out some interesting things, one of which is relatively new, and one of which has been around for quite some time. So the new one is a website called Cocoa Critics. And I'm a regular visitor to the r/chocolate subreddit. I contribute there as well. It's one of only 2 places on Reddit that I'm a regular contributor. And so we have this new website. I'll put the link to it. It says that it has links to 1,005 bars of chocolate from 119 makers, but only 2 reviews. And so you can, let's go pick on this Bonat chocolate bar. We find it's a Madagascar Criollo. There's a description of it. I don't know where this description comes from, if they're pulling it from the label. We have a front view, and there are things that I can do with it. I can add a review to it. I can like it as a favorite. I can share it with other people. I can suggest an edit, and then I can create a private collection of things that I want to do. And what I want to suggest is that, I know from some correspondence in the r/chocolate subreddit about what it is that the owner of this website is trying to do. But as somebody who has done an enormous amount of work in information technology and spent a lot of time thinking about search behavior versus browse behavior and what you want to expose and how you want to expose it, this explore link, I can explore chocolate, right? So I just clicked on it, and what I've got is an undifferentiated list of bars. So I've got a list of bars, they're organized, and I don't know how they're organized, right? So, and there's no way to change the sort. So this might be the most recently added one. I'm going to go, I can filter. Oh, I can say, right? So here's a list of makers. It's not an easy list to go sort through. Again, I closed it. This funnel here, I can select a type of chocolate. Oh, I'm going to look at all of the milk chocolates. That's not, well, at least it updates it. I can select meltdown. Just nope, there are no. So again, the filters aren't working here because it shouldn't give me a suggestion that results in 0 results, because I'm just wasting time figuring that out. Again, here's another bit of origin. Is there a Malaysian? There's no. So there's a lot of work that needs to get done in order to make this really, really useful. I can spend a lot of time using this filter and finding things that aren't in the database. I've got a milk chocolate minimum 60%. No, okay. Hey, that does work, even though I have to manually figure it out. Minimum of 65%. Right, so that does work. So you could do that. It does talk about bean origin. Are there any from Fiji? The answer is no. It doesn't talk about the country in which I would like to, French manufacturers about other manufacturers. So it's, while there are 1,000 bars listed here, again, I've got, and there's no way to reset the filters without actually going through and manually getting rid of the filters, which is time consuming and not, again, from a user experience perspective, is not all that friendly. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to make it work. Maybe this works for you. I don't know the answer to the question. We've come back to this, and now all of a sudden the sort order is different. I really don't understand how we get there. Again, it says 2, but it's 2 of how many? So if I'm looking at 12 per page and there are over 1,000 bars, there are 80 pages, right? That gets to 960. It's a clumsy experience. And so while I think it's a really, really interesting idea, so I have a list of makers, great, but there's no indication of where these makers are located. I might be in the United States and only be interested in makers in the United States that I'm likely to find. I might be in Europe and only look at Europe because I'm much more likely to find the makers in Europe. So in terms of really, really being useful, I'm going to just click on Good Now Farms. I know it. They've got 16 chocolates listed, and none of them have been rated or reviewed. They're just lists of the chocolate. Now, finally, yay, there's a list to Good Now Farms. We know they're in the United. It's a long way to go before this is really going to be useful for anybody to do it. I think it's something that is necessary, incredibly difficult to maintain, and to keep current, right? But for example, I would like to know, are there International Chocolate Award-winning bars in here, or are they Academy of Chocolate Award-winning bars, or are there Northwest Chocolate Alliance winning or Chocolate Alliance bars that are in here, or Good Foods or Great Taste? I mean, there's a whole lot of other data in here. Everything is converted to US dollars. If I'm from Europe, you can't, there's a lot to know. So at the moment, it seems like there's a lot way to go. They also have this leaderboards, which is not clickable. So at some point, my guess is when there are a lot of people are contributing to this and they're doing, liking a particular bar, that at some point these liked bars will show up in a leaderboard, but at the moment it's not there, so it's not usable. But I wanted to talk about it because I think it's a really, really interesting idea. It's one that I have been thinking about for a long, long, long time. However, it is really, really difficult to do well, and it is really, really difficult to keep current. And I think that's a challenge with it. So there is how do we get critical mass so we can get a lot of people involved in it, and how much data is required in order to be able to make it useful enough for people to attract them to get to critical mass. And I think that this website, cococritics.com, is sort of stuck in that middle here. They have to put enough content in it to make it interesting for people to start using it. And once people start using it, then there will be a way to keep it more current, but it's sort of stuck in the middle somewhere. But you might want to go take a look at it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I don't know. Do you think this might be interested to sign in and start adding some more information? I don't know the answer to that question. It's up to you, but go take a look at it. Right. One of the things that obviously the organizer of this website, the developer of this website, wants to do is to turn it into a community. He wants to get additional engagement from people, and then look at input for things that will make it more useful to people. And so if you are an IICCT member, if you are somewhere on the 1 to 3 list and you would like to find a way to perhaps publish some of your reviews and some of your thoughts on some of these chocolates, this might be a way to do it. I mean, if there is a way to expose you, right, as a critic, as somebody who's a contributor to this, so that people would go, hey, I like this person, I like the way they review things, and I'm going to look at their recommendations, because if they recommended this and they liked it and I agreed with their recommendation, maybe there are other things that they recommended that I would also like. So go take a look at it. Let me know what you think. You can go into the comments with YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook on The Chocolate Life for the post for today's episode. Let me know what it is you think. Right. There's another approach to this. There are 2 others that I'm going to really quickly. One of which is this is from a website called Chocolate Noise. It was compiled during the pandemic, so it's September 17th, 2020. There's no indication that it's been updated since then, but it's the top 50 bean-to-bar chocolate makers in the United States. So this is a personal look at it. I don't know that they're in alphabetical order. Not a whole lot of information, nothing about individual bars, but where she has written about a particular maker, there's a link to a story about it. So at least you can get some background information on these things, on these makers, and they do have links to the makers. So I'm looking at Askinosie. It's a link to the Askinosie website. There is, in some cases, there's a referral ID or something like that. Not entirely sure what those are, but you can find this list. We're now 2024, almost exactly 4 years later, and I don't know how much of this list is current. There are some people who've gone out of business, and there are many new makers. So again, this highlights the problem of keeping it current. right, with respect to going on. The final thing I want to talk about is this Flavors of Cacao database, organized by Brady Berlinski, who's part of Manhattan Chocolate Society. I believe that's the name of it, Manhattan Chocolate Society. I've known Brady, gosh, I mean, I started the New York Craft Chocolate Meetup back in 2006 or something like that, 2005. And Brady was a member, came to my meetings. Other members of the Manhattan Chocolate Society, I believe, met at these New York City chocolate meetup when we got there. So something to consider. This is a list of over 2,700 plain dark chocolate bars, which are rated, which is insane. So what we can do is we can go to, and it's just a table, right? An internal reference, the manufacturer. This is organized alphabetically. So if you're looking for Morin in France, you can look at a particular bar and you can get Brady's rating on it. So, and it's updated as recently as March 3rd. So what Brady does is every time he reviews a bar, he just puts it into this list. What's remarkable is he's been doing it for a long, long time, right? And there are over 2,700 bars, and it's all right plain dark chocolate. So there's no milk chocolate, there's no white chocolate there. He's not doing a whole lot of not doing anything with inclusions in it. He gives an overall flavor profile, and so I would look at this and I would say, here is a tool for discovery, right? So I can go through and I can look and say, I've got a country of bean origin. Unfortunately, there's no real way to sort this, if I recall. Oh yeah, just click on it and you can sort it. So you click on it, it doesn't give you any visual feedback if you wanted that, but you can click on it and you can say, ooh, man, how many different bars are there, right? Which from all these different companies companies using beans from Belize. I mean, there are a lot of these in here. So there's a blend section, which is one of the biggest ones. But if you're interested, this is great. Although, it's very highly idiosyncratic in that it represents the views of one particular reviewer. It is, in fact, perhaps one of the more comprehensive. I mean, there are more reviews in here of individual bars than, for example, in the book, The Reference Standard, by Jorg Bernardini, who is one of the founders of Giorgio Ramon. So, in terms of comprehensiveness, it is one of the largest publicly available databases of chocolate bars. Again, just, plain dark chocolate bars on the internet. And so if you're looking for, oh man, I would really like to explore Colombia as a country for producing, so it's a bean origin, then I've got a list of a bunch of different companies here that are using Colombian beans. Or if I'm looking for Costa Rica, or listen, I'm interested in finding companies, I'm going to go, scroll back to the top and then go click on the location of the company. And I'm going to say, wow, right, I'm looking for Belgian chocolate makers. So even though it is not visually sophisticated, it does work, and it works very, very quickly. And it's a great way of providing a point of entry from a particular person, right? But it's a great database. Just in terms of, I never knew that this company did these things, or I didn't know that there were so many companies using beans. So I'm interested in, oh my gosh, how many people are using beans from Tanzania. So I'm going to scroll down, and I want to find beans from Tanzania. But again, these are just, it's really interesting. There's only one bar here listed by Brady using Tanzanian beans. Not entirely sure where it is, Venezuela. So it's just idiosyncratic, but it's really, really illustrative, and it's a really, really fabulous tool to begin. Oh, I know why it's not sorted that way. It's because I sorted it by where the company is located, not where the beans are located. So this is a disadvantage when you've got all of these. So I'm looking for Tanzania now. Lots of Venezuela, lots and lots and lots of Venezuela. Again, just a great, great resource. Who knew there's so many? Got to go. So there are lots of Tanzanian bars here. You can go figure it out in any way. That's what I wanted to end with today in terms of, if we've got a list like the Chocolate Alliance winners, right? We have resources like the one Cocoa Critics, like the Chocolate Noise website, like Brady Brumsky's Flavors Good Count database that we can use as ways of exploring what the world of small maker chocolate is all about. And I think that's really, really, really important to go and know about these resources and be able to look at them and to be able to help you in your exploration of craft chocolate. And with that, I want to say thanks everybody for staying with me over the course of the hour. I do want to go back and say this is the home page of the Chocolate Life right now, that the link to today's episode is pinned to the top rail. There's a link to past episodes of Pod Save Chocolate. I put together an archive, so you can just click on the Pod Save Chocolate, not one of the arrows, and you can go back and find every single episode that is listed in the past. And I do put links to future episodes. When I know what they are, when they're scheduled, I will put them in here. And so it's a place to go. And if you're not currently a member of the Chocolate Life, I ask that you remember that this episode of Pod Safe Chocolate, like every episode, is supported by members of the Chocolate Life. So go there, sign up to become a free member. At the bottom of the post for today's episode, there are links to get the first 2 months of an annual subscription for free. So just might want to, so on a monthly basis as opposed to on an annual basis. So just wanted to let you know about those if you do have the resources to support what I'm doing. And if you're watching on YouTube, go and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel and support the work that I'm doing. And with that, everybody listen, have a great weekend. We'll be back this coming Tuesday. Not certain exactly what the topic is going to be, but I do want to remind everybody as I head out that if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Ciao, everyone.